The steady, rhythmic clatter of the train wheels hums beneath you, weaving a soft, hypnotic pattern through the compartment. Steam curls past the window in delicate tendrils, blurring the edges of the fog-wrapped English countryside. Inside, the velvet seats, worn smooth by decades of travelers, cradle you in faded comfort. Polished wood panels gleam faintly in the dim, filtered sunlight, their brass fixtures bearing the soft fingerprints of countless hands that came before. Your name is Eleanor Whitmore. The year is 1887, and you are bound for a destination whispered to you in stories since childhood. A village hidden in the folds of the Cotswolds, called Bellmere. You lean back in your seat, fingertips tracing the worn embroidery of the carriage's upholstery as the scenery drifts by. The gentle rocking of the carriage lulls your senses as the countryside rolls past, a living watercolor in muted greens and browns. Mossy stone walls meander across the fields, guiding your gaze to scattered farms and distant church spires that pierce the mist. Flocks of sheep graze along the hillsides, their woolly forms blending into the fog like phantoms of the land. The faint scent of coal smoke lingers in the air, mingling with traces of damp wool and the polished wood of the carriage. It is a fragrance of journeys, of forgotten towns, of possibilities yet to unfold. Your suitcase, a small, weathered leather case with brass buckles, rests by your feet. Inside, tucked between a folded wool shawl and a worn notebook, lies an old photograph. Your grandmother, her eyes soft with memory, smiles from beneath the wide brim of her hat, standing proudly beside a weathered sign, Bellmere. Her stories shaped your earliest years, tales of winding lanes and mossy cottages, of a village where time hesitated and the modern world whispered but never fully entered. She spoke of Bellmere like a place from legend, quiet, hidden, timeless. Outside, the mist thickens, softening the fields and hedgerows into blurred silhouettes. A lone crow wheels overhead, its cry lost to the steady rumble. Fellow passengers murmur quietly, their voices subdued by the soothing rhythm of the journey. An older couple across from you shares tea from a silver flask, their laughter low and familiar. A young boy, no older than 8, clutches a wooden toy horse, his eyes wide with the thrill of the unknown. The conductor's footsteps echo faintly along the corridor, his presence as much a part of the train as the brass fittings and leather seats. His voice calls out station names, familiar to some, foreign to others. A gentle rain begins to fall, the droplets racing down the glass in winding rivulets. The sound joins the rhythm of the train, the hiss of steam, the rattle of the tracks, the whisper of distant memories. You close your eyes, yet curiosity holds you tethered to the present. The conductor pauses at your compartment, his gloved hand tapping gently against the doorframe. "Bellmere Station, next stop," he says, his voice warm with the familiar burr of Gloucestershire. You nod, offering a polite smile as he moves on, his silhouette fading into the corridor's haze of steam and sunlight. Bellmere. The name carries the weight of forgotten summers and whispered tales by the hearth, a place both real and imagined, a place where time, perhaps, moves differently. The train begins to slow, its whistle low and mournful, as the countryside retreats into folds of mist. You gather your belongings, smoothing the creases from your traveling coat, tucking the photograph back into your notebook. The compartment quiets. The world outside grows softer, quieter, as though holding its breath. You glance at your reflection in the window, the faintest ghost of yourself staring back, eyes wide with wonder, and just a trace of uncertainty. With a final hiss of steam, the train glides towards the hidden heart of the Cotswolds and the forgotten village that awaits. Outside the window, the mist slowly begins to lift, revealing more of the rolling hills that define this ancient corner of England. The gentle undulations of the land are like waves frozen in time, worn smooth by centuries of wind, rain, and footsteps, long forgotten. Your gaze follows a narrow dirt track, winding through a patchwork of fields. Fences made of gnarled oak branches lean in places, succumbing to age and weather. A shepherd tends a small flock of sheep, his voice barely audible as he calls out commands, carried away by the breeze. The sheep scatter, their soft bleats mingling with the distant song of birds settling for the night. The train passes a solitary farmhouse, its stone walls mottled with lichen and ivy. A faint glow from a hearth shines through the small window, promising warmth and shelter against the creeping chill. Smoke curls lazily from the chimney, twisting upwards into the soft sky. In this moment, it feels as though you are moving not just through space, but through layers of time. The world outside speaks of a quieter rhythm, where the days are measured by the rising and setting sun, rather than the whistle of a factory or the chime of a clock tower. Inside the carriage, the murmurs of your fellow travelers continue, yet your thoughts turn inward. The journey ahead is both a physical and an emotional passage, a step toward rediscovering a past that shaped your family's story. You reach into your coat pocket and pull out the worn photograph again. The edges are soft and curled, the black and white image faded from years of handling. Your grandmother's face looks back at you, her eyes full of gentle strength and quiet determination. Behind her, the signpost for Bellmere stands resolute against the sky. She had spoken often of this village. Her voice carried a mixture of nostalgia and longing, as if Bellmere were both a refuge and a dream. She described its narrow lanes lined with ancient oaks, the laughter of children playing in the village green, and the comforting embrace of familiar faces and old traditions. Her stories are your compass now, guiding you through the unfamiliar landscape of this new chapter. You tuck the photograph carefully back into your journal, the pages filled with her handwriting, letters and notes preserved like precious relics. The train gently rocks, its pace steady but unhurried. You close your eyes briefly, feeling the soothing motion carry away the tension in your shoulders. The soft hum of the engine becomes a balm, lulling your mind toward a place of calm and rest. As you relax, you notice the small details around you. The delicate floral pattern embroidered on the upholstery, the polished brass handle of the window, the tiny scratches etched into the wooden armrest. Each mark a silent witness to the countless journeys taken in this carriage. A woman seated across from you adjusts her lace gloves with careful precision. Her bonnet is pinned neatly atop a mass of chestnut curls, and her eyes sparkle with a quiet curiosity as she glances out the window. She catches your gaze and offers a polite nod, a fleeting connection between two strangers bound by the same voyage. The air inside the compartment is tinged with a faint trace of lavender and soot, a scent carried in from the station platform mingling with the warmth of packed passengers. The soft rustle of silk skirts and the occasional cough punctuate the otherwise gentle stillness. Outside, the landscape shifts subtly. Fields give way to clusters of trees, their branches weaving together like a tapestry overhead. The wind stirs the leaves, setting them to dance in soft spirals that catch the fading light. You think of your grandmother's words again, how the villagers of Bellmere believed the woods to be alive with spirits and memories, guardians of the land who watched silently through the centuries. The idea brings a strange comfort, a sense that you are not alone on this journey. The conductor's footsteps echo once more, a rhythmic tapping that reverberates through the corridor. He pauses briefly at your door, his expression unreadable beneath his cap.
"Bellmere's coming up shortly," he says quietly, his voice low so as not to disturb the quiet calm of the carriage. You nod, a flutter of anticipation rising in your chest. The moment you've waited for. The arrival at a place that holds more than just buildings and roads, but a legacy, draws near. As the train slows, you prepare to gather your belongings. Your fingers trace the smooth surface of the suitcase once more, its worn leather cool beneath your touch. The weight of the journey, both physical and emotional, settles gently in your palms. Outside the window, the mist curls and twists like a living thing, obscuring the horizon and softening the edges of the world. The soft whistle of the engine pierces the quiet, a melancholic song that seems to echo the beating of your heart. The carriage rocks to a halt with a gentle jolt. The countryside slips away, replaced by the weathered platform of Bellmere station, a place that waits, timeless and patient, for your arrival. The late afternoon sun filters through the smudged window panes, casting a warm amber glow over the worn velvet upholstery. Each ray catches the fine dust suspended in the air, painting delicate golden shafts that seem almost tangible in the quiet stillness of the compartment. Your fingers absent-mindedly trace the stitching along the edge of your wool coat, feeling the soft fibers and the slight roughness where the fabric has seen many winters. Outside, the countryside continues its gentle unfolding. A vast canvas of softly rolling hills dotted with wildflowers and hedgerows, all steeped in the deep greens and browns of early autumn. A distant church spire rises like a sentinel above the treetops, its silhouette softened by the haze. The faint tolling of its bells drifts faintly on the breeze, marking the slow passage of time in this corner of England, far removed from the clamor of the cities. You lean your head back against the polished wood panel behind you, eyes fluttering closed for a moment. The rhythmic sound of wheels turning on rails melds with the creak of the carriage and the occasional murmur of passengers to form a gentle lullaby. A young boy in the next compartment plays softly on a wooden flute, the notes drifting through the air like a whisper. His melody is sweet and simple, echoing the countryside itself, modest, unhurried, full of quiet wonder. Your thoughts wander to your grandmother's stories, told to you by firelight on cold winter nights. She spoke of the village's traditions, the harvest festivals where lanterns floated like stars, the old women gathering to spin wool and share secrets, the children chasing fireflies across the village green. You wonder what remains of those traditions now. Has Bellmere changed, or has it held fast, like a treasure locked away from the march of time? The train passes a small stream, its waters glinting like scattered jewels in the fading light. Cattle graze lazily nearby, their breath rising in soft clouds of mist as the air cools. You imagine the simple rhythms of their days, grazing, resting, moving with the sun, and feel a pang of longing for such uncomplicated peace. Inside the compartment, a small brass kettle whistles softly on a portable stove, its steam mingling with the warm scent of brewed tea. The attendant moves silently through the corridor, offering cups wrapped in delicate lace doilies to passengers wrapped in travel-worn shawls and caps. You accept a cup with a nod of thanks, the porcelain warm against your palms. The first sip is soothing, the bitterness of the tea balanced by a hint of honey. The warmth seeps slowly through your fingers, grounding you in the present moment. Outside, the landscape begins to shift subtly. The fields grow smaller, hedgerows thicker, the trees taller and closer together. The train is entering a more wooded region where the land folds in on itself, like a secret kept just out of reach. You notice the architecture of scattered cottages now, their stone walls weathered, roofs thick with thatch or slate. Smoke curls upward from chimneys, painting lazy spirals against the gray sky. A family stands at a gate, waving as the train passes. The mother holds a child in her arms, while the father tips his hat in quiet greeting.
Their faces are bright with curiosity and kindness, the simple gestures of a community woven tightly together. You tuck your journal into your bag and pull the window open just a crack. The cool air rushes in, carrying with it the scent of damp earth and pine needles. You breathe deeply, savoring the freshness after the warmth of the carriage. The sound of the train's whistle rises once more, a lonely cry that echoes through the hills. It stirs something deep inside you, a mixture of anticipation and reverence for the journey unfolding. Your gaze drifts upward to the sky, where clouds scuttle like ghostly ships across a sea of pale blue. A lone hawk circles high above, its wings steady and sure as it rides the currents. In this moment, the world feels vast and alive. The train is not just a vessel carrying you through space, but a bridge connecting past and present, memory and reality. You glance once more at the photograph of your grandmother, tucked safely inside your journal. Her smile seems to hold a quiet promise that here, in the hidden village of Bellmere, you might find more than just a place on a map. You might find yourself. The train hums steadily on, its wheels marking the rhythm of a story just beginning. The train's wheels slowly grind to a halt with a gentle. Bellmere station is small, almost forgotten. A modest stone building nestled among rolling hills that stretch beyond the horizon, their outlines blurred by the ever-present morning fog. The walls, mottled with creeping ivy and soft moss, carry the weight of many decades, their stones weathered and smooth beneath the brush of countless seasons. Your boots tap softly against the wooden boards, worn uneven by the footsteps of generations of travelers long past. The air smells richly of damp earth and burning wood smoke, mingling with the faint scent of fresh rain on ancient stone. A single gas lamp flickers feebly near the station's door, casting a warm, wavering glow that dances with the morning mist. The station master, a stout man with a graying beard and twinkling eyes, nods in your direction. His heavy wool coat is buttoned high against the damp chill, and his cap sits slightly askew, as if accustomed to many long mornings spent here. His voice carries the soft, lilting cadence of the Gloucestershire countryside as he offers you a quiet greeting. "Welcome to Bellmere, miss," he says kindly, his eyes bright behind wire-rimmed spectacles. "It's not a place that sees many visitors these days." You return his nod, the corners of your lips lifting into a faint, shy smile. "Thank you," you reply, your breath forming little clouds in the cool air. Beyond the station, a narrow lane stretches out before you, winding its way between low, crumbling stone walls. The walls are mottled with green moss and speckled with tiny white blossoms that peek shyly from the tangled brambles. The muddy track is marked by deep ruts from cartwheels, now softened by recent rain. Patches of wildflowers, delicate and pale, lean in the gentle breeze. A hand-painted wooden sign leans precariously at the edge of the lane. Its faded black letters read, "Bellmere, established 1724. Though weathered and cracked, the sign still carries a quiet dignity, a testament to the village's enduring spirit. A brown horse ambles down the lane, its hooves sinking softly into the mud. The driver, an elderly man wrapped in a thick wool cloak, raises his hand in greeting beneath a wide-brimmed hat. His face is weathered, etched with the lines of years spent braving the elements. The gentle snort of the horse mingles with the distant call of birds waking in the hedgerows. You pause, drawing your coat tighter around you, as a cool breeze stirs the mist, brushing softly against your cheeks. The stillness of the moment feels almost sacred, a quiet pause before stepping fully into a place suspended in time. As you walk away from the station, the faint whistle of the departing train echoes behind you, fading slowly into the thickening mist. You are left alone with the soft sounds of the countryside. the rustling of leaves.
The village of Bellmere lies just beyond the bend in the lane, hidden by a veil of fog and the gentle rise of the hills. Its rooftops peek through the morning haze, the chimneys releasing slender curls of smoke into the pale sky. The cottages huddle close together, their stone walls dressed in ivy and wildflowers, windows glinting with the promise of warmth within. Every step brings you closer to the heart of Bellmere, where life flows slowly and quietly, untouched by the hurry of the outside world. The cobblestones beneath your feet feel smooth from years of footsteps, their irregular shapes worn by time. A small stream babbles nearby, its clear waters slipping between moss-covered stones. The air here is fresher, cooler, carrying the scent of wild herbs and damp wood, of freshly tilled earth and blooming heather. It's a fragrance that speaks of ancient rhythms, of life bound to the land, to the turning of seasons and the whisper of the wind through the trees. As you enter the village square, a handful of villagers pause to glance your way. Faces weathered by sun and toil, eyes sharp and curious, but not unkind. An elderly woman tending a small garden offers a gentle smile, her hands busy planting young seedlings in the rich soil. Nearby, a group of children play quietly with wooden hoops and sticks, their laughter soft and unhurried. The village church stands at the square's edge, a simple stone building crowned with a slender steeple that reaches towards the sky. The faint tolling of its bell rings out, a steady, comforting rhythm that marks the passage of time in Bellmere. The sound seems to ripple through the mist, echoing softly in the hills. You find your way to the village inn, a cozy timber-framed building with smoke curling from its chimney. The sign above the door depicts a golden bell swinging beneath a tree, a symbol of Bellmere's enduring history. The warm glow of candlelight spills from the windows, promising rest and refuge. Inside, the hearth crackles merrily, sending flickering shadows dancing along the rough-hewn walls. The scent of burning wood mingles with the faint aroma of stew and freshly baked bread. A few villagers sit quietly by the fire, their faces illuminated by the dancing flames, sharing soft-spoken conversation and gentle smiles. The innkeeper, a broad-shouldered man with kind eyes and a welcoming smile, greets you warmly. He offers a small room upstairs, simple but clean, with a narrow bed and thick woolen blankets. You accept gratefully, feeling the weariness of your journey settle into your bones. As you settle in, the soft murmur of the village night drifts through the open window, the distant hoot of an owl, the rustle of leaves in the evening breeze, the faint murmur of the stream nearby. Outside, the stars begin to twinkle through gaps in the clouds, their silver light casting a gentle glow over the sleeping village. You lie back on the narrow bed, pulling the blankets close around you. The quiet of Bellmere seeps into your soul, wrapping you in its timeless embrace. Outside, the village breathes slowly, undisturbed by the rush of the world beyond the hills. Tomorrow, you will begin to explore the winding lanes and ancient fields, to meet the villagers whose lives are entwined with the land itself. But for now, you close your eyes and let the gentle rhythms of Bellmere cradle you into restful sleep. The village watches silently through the night, its stories waiting patiently to be discovered. The low hum of the departing steam train lingers in the air as Margaret steps away from Bellmere station, her leather suitcase gripped tightly in one hand. The station's gas lamps cast a muted glow across the platform, flickering gently in the soft twilight. Beyond the station, the countryside stretches out in all directions, a sea of rolling hills, dense woodlands, and fields quilted in green and gold. Margaret draws her shawl tighter around her shoulders. The early evening breeze carries with it the crispness of autumn, along with the faint scent of wood smoke and damp earth. Overhead, the sky is a deepening blue, streaked with the last hues of sunset, fiery orange fading to dusky pink. A solitary figure waits at the far end of the platform, leaning casually against a wooden post. He is tall and broad-shouldered, with a newsboy cap pulled low over dark hair. His long wool coat suggests he is no stranger to the colder countryside nights. As Margaret approaches, the man straightens, offering a polite nod. "Miss Whitmore," he asks, his voice tinged with the lilting accent of the Gloucestershire region. Yes, Margaret replies, adjusting the grip on her suitcase. I'm Robert Fletcher. I work for the Bellmere estate, he explains. The mistress sent me to escort you to the village. Margaret offers a small, grateful smile. Thank you, Mr. Fletcher. Together, they set off down the narrow lane leading away from the station. The road winds gently through the countryside, flanked by ancient stone walls draped in ivy and moss. On either side, fields stretch toward the horizon, dotted with grazing sheep and the occasional haystack left to dry in the waning light. The rhythmic crunch of their footsteps on the gravel path is the only sound for several moments. Margaret savors the stillness. After years in bustling Manchester, the countryside's quietude feels almost surreal. It's peaceful here, she remarks softly. Robert glances at her, his expression unreadable. It is. Though Bellmere has its own peculiarities. Margaret raises an eyebrow. Peculiarities? He chuckles lightly. You'll see soon enough. The lane curves through a copse of oak trees, their leaves beginning to turn gold and crimson. The thick canopy above filters the remaining daylight, casting shifting shadows across the path. In the distance, the faint outlines of rooftops and chimneys emerge, a hint of the village beyond. As they walk, Robert points out landmarks, the old stone bridge over Hollow Creek, the weathered milestone marking Bellmere, 1 mile, and the crumbling remnants of a Roman wall, half swallowed by brambles. History runs deep here, he says, tapping the stone with his walking stick. Older than the village. Older than the manor, even. Margaret pauses to run her fingers over the cool, lichen-covered stones. The sensation grounds her. The ancient texture beneath her fingertips, the whisper of the wind through the grass. It feels timeless, she observes. Robert nods, his gaze distant. Some say Bellmere never really changes. As they resume their walk, twilight deepens into full evening. Lamps flicker to life in the windows of distant farmhouses. An owl hoots softly from a nearby tree. The hedgerows along the path grow denser, the faint rustle of small creatures audible within. Many folk round here still hold to old ways, Robert remarks. Superstitions, stories, you'll hear them soon enough. Margaret smiles faintly, the prospect both unsettling and intriguing. At last, the lane crests a gentle hill, revealing Bellmere village nestled in the hollow below. Thatched roof cottages cluster together along cobbled lanes. Smoke curls from chimneys, mingling with the mist rising from the nearby river. At the village's heart stands the church. Its ancient stone steeple silhouetted against the moonlit sky. Beyond the church, atop a low ridge, looms Bellmere Manor. Its gabled rooftops and grand facade are partially obscured by trees, but its imposing presence is unmistakable. Margaret pauses to take in the sight. It's beautiful, she murmurs. Robert offers a half-smile. Aye. But beautiful things often come with shadows. The words linger in the cool air as they begin their descent toward the village, unaware of how prophetic they may soon prove to be. The descent into Bellmere village is a quiet one. The evening mist has thickened, curling like pale smoke along the cobbled streets and between the clustered cottages. The glow of oil lamps spills from windows, casting honey-colored pools of light onto the damp stones. The faint murmur of voices, the distant clatter of hooves, and the occasional bark of a dog drift through the stillness. Margaret's boots click softly as she follows Robert along the winding main lane. The houses they pass are modest but sturdy, stone walls, timber frames, thatched or slate roofs. Many bear small plaques with names: Rose Cottage, Brindle Hollow, the Old Forge. Brightly painted doors stand out against the weathered stone, and baskets of late autumn flowers hang from wrought iron hooks. Despite the hour, a few villagers linger outside. An elderly woman in a shawl sweeps her doorstep, pausing to nod at their passing. A pair of young boys chase each other around a lamppost, their laughter sharp in the crisp air. Further ahead, the village pub, the Fox and Lantern, buzzes with muffled conversation and the clink of glasses. That's where most folk end their day, Robert remarks, tipping his head toward the pub. They say the ale's strong, the story's stronger. Margaret smiles faintly, but her attention is drawn upward, to the towering silhouette of the church that dominates the village square. Its stone facade is weathered with age, the arched windows dark. A single bell, suspended in the steeple, catches the moonlight like a silent sentinel. They pause before the churchyard gate. Rows of leaning headstones crowd the ground beyond, their inscriptions softened by moss and time. Some bear fresh flowers or wreaths, others are nearly swallowed by creeping vines. Many generations lie here, Robert says quietly. Bellmere folk don't stray far from home, in life or death. Margaret's gaze lingers on a weathered angel carved into one of the stones, its expression worn but gentle. It's peaceful, she observes. Robert's lips twitch with amusement, but he doesn't comment. Instead, he gestures for them to continue. Beyond the square, they pass the baker's shop, its window dark now, but the scent of flour and yeast still lingers in the air. Next is the cobbler's workshop, tools neatly arranged on the bench visible through the glass. A narrow alley branches off between two buildings, disappearing into shadow. Best to avoid the back lanes at night, Robert advises casually. Not everyone in Bellmere is fond of strangers, and not all shadows belong to the living. Margaret's brows knit together, but she follows without question. The road narrows, curving gently as it approaches the foot of the low ridge. The ground here rises gradually, leading toward Bellmere Manor. The grand house looms ahead, its darkened windows reflecting the moon's pale glow. Ivy clings to the stone walls like veins, and the wrought iron gates creak softly in the breeze. Beyond them, a gravel path winds through manicured gardens, their neat rows of hedges and flower beds subdued by the night's hush. You'll find Bellmere Manor different from what you're used to, Robert remarks as he opens the gate. It has history. Margaret casts him a curious glance. Everything here seems to. Robert agrees. But the manor's history clings like fog. Some say it's never truly gone. The gravel crunches beneath their feet as they approach the grand entrance. Twin lanterns flank the heavy oak door, their flames flickering in the night wind. The door itself is carved with intricate patterns, oak leaves, acorns, and curling vines, worn smooth by generations of use. Robert raises the iron knocker, a lion's head with a brass ring, and lets it fall. The echo resonates through the stone walls, followed by footsteps from within. The door creaks open, revealing a middle-aged woman in a modest black dress and lace collar. Her hair is pulled into a tight bun, and her expression is one of quiet authority. "You must be Miss Whitmore," she states, her tone crisp but not unkind. Margaret nods. "Yes, ma'am. I'm Mrs. Weatherby. Housekeeper. Come in, the mistress is expecting you." Margaret hesitates only a moment before stepping inside. The manor's entrance hall is grand but not ostentatious, stone floors polished to a muted sheen, dark wood paneling, and portraits in gilded frames lining the walls. A large grandfather clock ticks steadily in the corner, its rhythmic chime echoing faintly. Robert tips his cap, offering Margaret a final nod. "Welcome to Bellmere, Miss Whitmore." With that, he disappears into the night, leaving Margaret to her new life, and whatever secrets the village and manor may hold. The moon hung high over Bellmere as Margaret followed Robert along the winding cobbled lane into the heart of the village. Gas lamps glowed faintly, their amber halos reflecting off rain-damp stones. The faint scent of smoke and damp earth filled the air, and the muffled chatter of townsfolk drifted from curtained windows. There, Robert gestured ahead. "The Fox and Lantern. You'll be lodging there until the mistress makes more permanent arrangements." Margaret's gaze settled on the inn. A cozy, timber-framed building nestled between a bakery and a smithy. Its wooden sign, creaking in the breeze, depicted a fox curled beneath a glowing lantern. Golden light and laughter spilled from the windows, offering warmth against the cool night. They approached the heavy oak door. Robert tipped his cap. "I'll leave you to settle in, Miss Whitmore. Someone from the manor will fetch you in the morning." "Thank you, Mr. Fletcher," Margaret replied, her voice steady despite the swirl of nerves within. Inside, the inn was awash with warmth and life. The scent of roasted meat, ale, and wood smoke clung to the air. Locals clustered around worn tables, their faces ruddy from drink and the fire's glow. A fiddler played softly near the hearth, accompanied by the rhythmic creak of rocking chairs and the low murmur of conversation. The innkeeper, a stout woman with rosy cheeks and keen eyes, approached. "Evenin', love. You must be Miss Whitmore. Room's ready upstairs. I'm Mrs. Kettle. You need anything, you ask." Grateful, Margaret allowed herself to be led up a narrow staircase, past faded portraits and a window revealing the moonlit street. Her room was small but tidy, a brass bedstead dressed in patchwork quilts, a worn dresser, a porcelain washbasin. From the window, she could see Bellmere Manor silhouetted on the ridge, its upper windows dark, save for a single flickering lamp. After freshening up, curiosity lured her back downstairs. The common room had quieted somewhat. A few villagers remained, farmers, laborers, their weathered faces marked by hard years. Near the hearth, an elderly man with wisps of silver hair was recounting a story to two young boys, their eyes wide. "They say, on misty nights," the old man rasped, "you can still hear the weeping on Hollow Creek. Young Eleanor Bellmere, lost to the waters 100 years ago, her spirit restless, Searchin." Margaret listened, intrigued. Across the room, a woman in her 30s offered a knowing smile. "First night in Bellmere, is it?" Margaret nodded. "I've just arrived from Manchester." "Ah," the woman chuckled, "city girl. You'll find things slower here, but not without their mysteries." She extended a hand. "I'm Elsie Granger. Help with the bakery." "Margaret Whitmore," she replied, accepting the handshake. Over ale and quiet conversation, Margaret learned snippets of village life. Harvest fairs, old superstitions, the odd unexplained occurrence. Whispers of shadows seen along the creek. Bells tolling faintly from the empty church at midnight. The manor, with its grand facade and lingering ghost stories. "Folk round here," Elsie confided, "they don't speak ill of the Bellmers, but not all's as proper as it seems up at the manor." Before Margaret could inquire further, the door creaked open. Heads turned as a tall, imposing woman in a dark cloak entered. Her sharp blue eyes scanned the room, lingering briefly on Margaret before addressing Mrs. Kettle. "Miss Whitmore is to be ready for the estate tour at 9 sharp, she instructed crisply, then departed without another word. "That's Mrs. Hartford," Elsie explained, lowering her voice. "The housekeeper. Runs the place like clockwork." Margaret's pulse quickened. Her new life in Bellmere was truly beginning. Later, as she climbed into bed, exhaustion pulled at her, but sleep was elusive. The unfamiliar creaks of the old building, the distant hoot of an owl, and the persistent whisper of Hollow Creek beyond the village filled the night. From her window, the manor loomed, a dark silhouette against the star-strewn sky. Margaret closed her eyes, unaware of how entangled she would soon become in Bellmere's secrets. The moon hung high over Bellmere as Margaret followed Robert along the winding cobbled lane into the heart of the village. Gas lamps glowed faintly, their amber halos reflecting off rain-damp stones. The faint scent of smoke and damp earth filled the air, and the muffled chatter of townsfolk drifted from curtained windows. "There," Robert gestured ahead. "The Fox and Lantern. You'll be lodging there until the mistress makes more permanent arrangements." Margaret's gaze settled on the inn. A cozy, timber-framed building nestled between a bakery and a smithy. Its wooden sign, creaking in the breeze, depicted a fox curled beneath a glowing lantern. Golden light and laughter spilled from the windows, offering warmth against the cool night. They approached the heavy oak door. Robert tipped his cap. I'll leave you to settle in, Miss Whitmore. Someone from the manor will fetch you in the morning. Thank you, Mr. Fletcher, Margaret replied, her voice steady despite the swirl of nerves within. As the soft whispers of Bellmere fade, and the ancient manor settles beneath the weight of time and memory, we hope this quiet journey has lulled you into peaceful sleep. If you've enjoyed this slow, atmospheric escape into history, we'd love to have you with us for more. Subscribe to our channel, at Sleepy Historian, where the past drifts gently into dreams, and forgotten places come alive in the quiet hours of the night. Until next time, sleep well.